Today is 15 April 2020, and we're doing a greenhouse update. These strawberries are now 2 weeks old. You can see our tomatoes came in from the nursery about this size, 2 inches, 3 inches at the most, and now they're as tall as a milk jug since transplanting to a larger pot. The peppers came in, a week or two after I got some tomatoes. Some of these are pretty small. And then, on the 26th of March, we planted Mar Globe, Independence Day, Oregon Spring, San Marzano, Romas, and they came up in a week. So 15, now 2 weeks later, you can see they're up 2 inches, and they're starting to really take off. But they're a little bit dirty. You can see the weeds coming up in some of the potting mix. So we're going to clean them up. We also planted some the cherry sweeties. We planted those 2 weeks ago, and they're all coming up. And we planted peppers on the 26th of March. Took them about 2-3 weeks to get going, but you can see they're all coming up now. Those that hopefully will. Here's one still popping out of the ground today. Here's another one just opening up. Here's one just opening up. A couple more. Here's one coming up today. Filling in as much as they can, and as much as they will germinate, we will use. These seeds are 2019. So I'm going to go through and clean up some of these little guys. These little weeds don't need to be there. We've had frost a couple of nights in a row. Some of the geraniums we set out front right by the house did okay, but the geraniums that were out on the patio, out in the yard, uncovered, unprotected, don't look too good. It's like there might have been 2 tomato seeds in that one. I'll just take one out. It's a little bit overcast this morning, which makes things a little bit cooler. And not so frosty, warmer, I guess, too, in a way, but it's cooler this morning. Otherwise, the sun would be out and the greenhouse would be nice and warm. Great day to be in the greenhouse. Okay, that tray looks nice. Let's do this one. Oh, I snagged the wrong one. Let's find a way to put him back in the ground. That works. There's a tomato coming up right there, little baby. Finally decided to germinate. Some of this potting mix was in a number of pots that, maybe weren't used last year. And so we dump it out in here and use it, but the weed seeds might show up. Okay, that tray looks nice. This is about the right size to transplant to 4-inch pot or larger, and the larger the pot they have, this larger, or the faster they seem to grow. Okay, well there's one that was a double seed on Oregon Spring, and since there's one over there that doesn't have any plants in it, we'll put one there. Spread them out just a little bit. more with doubles. Yeah, I don't see any more doubles coming up. There's a weed. Oh, there's a double right there. Pull him out and put him right next to this one. These plants out here are only a foot from the wall of the greenhouse, and that's south facing. So it's pretty warm over there. Here's a double. Let's put him right there. It just pulls out really nicely. The root will transplant fine right there. These are just weeds. That's probably a weed, but I think I'll let it go just to be sure. It says it's 69 degrees in here this morning and 77% humidity. And let's see, pull that out. Another weed. Get rid of those little guys, clean things up. If I don't transplant these, then now would be a good time to feed the plants with some liquid fertilizer. I was saying this is a south-facing wall, and the plants out there are only a foot from the wall. Well, for a while it was cool and rainy, and we didn't have any shade cloth, but now we have 35% shade cloth on the south wall outside the greenhouse. I think I pulled the wrong one. I'm going to put him back in. Like that. Easy to do. Pull out the wrong plant. There's one, a weed. There's a weed. Some grass. These little plants don't need any competition for nutrition. Okay, did we get them all? Get the idea? Weeds. Weeds, weeds. That one's not. This is weeds germinate faster than the peppers for sure. So you got to kind of let them go so you know which ones aren't pulling up the weed seeds and which ones are the right seeds germinating. Grass, grass, pepper, 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 grass, weeds. like a real tall pepper plant in my garden. These won't be that way. We should have started at the end of January. Instead, we started at the end of March. So the peppers are going to be pretty small plants. They'll still produce a ton of peppers, but I like them to be tall, not have to be so short. And all the fruit is clumped near the ground. Okay. That's a weed, grass. Feels like those out there could use some water on that side. All right. There's more we can do. I'll turn around here in the greenhouse and you can see we took 2-foot sections of triple crown blackberry cane, last year's canes, larger than a pencil's width, and put 2 or 3 buds in the dirt and left 2 or 3 buds above the soil, and you can see some of them are starting to bloom, or not bloom, but leaf out. This one's barely starting right there. There's one that's starting to leaf out. There's one that's got some leaves that are actually looking more like leaves. There's another one up there on the same stalk. And if they don't all sprout, and some do, at least we made some new plants that way, and it's sure easy to do. Here's 3 more over here. This big 3/4 inch stalk isn't leafing out yet. It's not even swelling, so it might not live, but there's a lot of meat there, and we'll give it time to do its thing. Here's one that I planted upside down, but it'll do the same thing. It'll leaf out. You see the leaves facing downward. Oh well. This one seems to be growing. It's got 2 leaves coming out, that pot. These are in the greenhouse, so it gets up to 107, 108, 110 degrees in here almost every day. And I'm leaving these 8 or 10 blackberries to see how well they do compared to the ones outside. So let's head outdoors. And we have some out here in pots that I'm only experimenting with to see if being outside and not so hot will perform better in their rooting. You see one here that's expanding. That's a raspberry. I don't see as many leaves, so where it's not as warm, they might not leaf out quite as quickly, but look at the size of this guy. There's another big one. There's a leaf forming right there, maybe. And if they don't perform quite as fast, but they still perform, or overall they perform better than being in the warm greenhouse, then we'll know which is better, being in the warm or out in the cool, doing it more naturally. Okay, back to this south-facing wall. So it does get warmer next to the wall of the greenhouse outside on the south face, even with the shade cloth. And you can see, if I show you the height of these tomatoes, up front near the wall, they're shorter, and then they get taller, and then out more near the middle of the greenhouse, not quite as tall, but taller than the front. So what I need to do probably is pull the whole shelving away from the wall of the greenhouse and get more out into the middle, and the plants would be more healthy all the way around. You can see some up here, huge. They're almost a foot tall. Back in there, not doing too bad, just taller or higher, closer to the roof of the greenhouse. We have our 4 mil poly, pretty thin wall here on the greenhouse, but then you can see this 35% mesh is pretty open. You can buy real heavy mesh all the way down to 10%, just almost closed, or you can buy way wide net. This is nylon. and in the sun it'll rot. So after 10 years or so, 12 years of using this, it has started to tear. You can see down on this end some tearing. It used to go all the way over the top of the greenhouse, but since it started to tear, I've discovered that it's not too bad to leave the top off and just make sure this front isn't baking the front side of the plant shelving. Our little greenhouse patch is probably 12 feet square. And every year we pick, this is triple crown thornless blackberries. Every year we pick 50 pounds of blackberries off this little patch. It could be more organized, and so I'm trying to move it away from the hot south side of this metal-sided shop, and we'll get it more out into the open, and it may perform even better, because all of the berries on top up here, I shouldn't say all of them, but a lot of them burn up in the heat from the reflection of the metal siding of the shop. I'm only 10 to 12 feet away from that siding. Last year we put the shade cloth over the top. That's what this frame is. We had shade cloth all the way around, and I don't think they performed as well. They like the sun, but they just don't want as much heat.